there is not a person here, there is not an empty chair on that stage that didn't tweet out, "Never forget the heroes of 9/11. Never forget their bravery. Never forget what they did, what they gave to this country." Well, here they are.
A complete and total destruction on Capitol Hill. Jon Stewart just took an absolute flamethrower to Congress, unloading on a sea of empty chairs. With sick and dying 9 over 11 heroes sitting right behind him, Stewart exposes the ultimate political betrayal. You have to hear this raw fury.
Has come to. Behind me, a filled room of 9/11 first responders, and in front of me, a nearly empty Congress. Sick and dying, they brought themselves down here to speak to no one. It's shameful. It's an embarrassment to the country, and it is a stain on this institution. And you should be ashamed of yourselves for those that aren't here, but you won't be. Because accountability doesn't appear to be something that occurs in this chamber. We don't want to be here. Lou doesn't want to be here. None of these people want to be here. But they are, and they're not here for themselves. They're here to continue fighting for what's right. Lou's going to go back for his 69th chemo. The great Ray Pfeiffer would come down here, his body riddled with cancer and pain, where he couldn't walk. And the disrespect shown to him and to the other lobbyists on this bill is utterly unacceptable. You know, I used to get, I would be so angry at the latest injustice that's done to these men and women. And, you know, another business card thrown our way as a way of shooing us away, like children trick-or-treating, rather than the heroes that they are and will always be. Ray would say, "Calm down, Johnny, calm down. I got all the cards I need." And he would tap his pocket. Where he kept the prayer cards of 343 firefighters. The official FDNY response time to 9/11 was 5 seconds. 5 seconds. That's how long it took for FDNY, for NYPD, for Port Authority, for EMS to respond to an urgent need from the public. 5 seconds. Hundreds died in an instant. Thousands more poured in to continue to fight for their brothers and sisters.
Jon Stewart just walked into the House Judiciary Committee, looked at a sea of completely empty congressional chairs, and went absolute scorched earth on the entire political establishment. This wasn't just a political debate. This was an emotional demolition. For years, we have watched politicians from every side of the aisle stand in front of television cameras, hand over heart, tweeting out, "Never forget." We've seen them use the tragedy of September 11th to wave flags, build platforms, and sound patriotic. But when the cameras turn off, the reality sets in.
The breathing problem started almost immediately, and they were told they weren't sick, they were crazy. And then, as the illnesses got worse and things became more apparent, well, okay, you're sick, but it's not from the pile. And then, when the science became irrefutable, okay, it's the pile. But this is a New York issue. I don't know if we have the money. And I'm sorry if I sound angry and undiplomatic, but I'm angry. And you should be too, and they're all angry as well. And they have every justification to be that way. There is not a person here, there is not an empty chair on that stage that didn't tweet out, "Never forget the heroes of 9/11. Never forget their bravery. Never forget what they did, what they gave to this country." Well, here they are. And where are they? And it would be one thing if their callous indifference and rank hypocrisy were benign, but it's not. Your indifference costs these men and women their most valuable commodity, time. It's the one thing they're running out of. This should be flipped. This hearing should be flipped. These men and women should be up on that stage, and Congress should be down here answering their questions as to why this is so damn hard and takes so damn long. And why, no matter what they get, something's always pulled back, and they got to come back. Mr. Johnson, you made a point earlier, and it was one that we have heard over and over again in these halls, and I couldn't help but to answer to it, which was, you said, look, you guys are obviously heroes, and 9/11 was a big deal, but, we have a lot of stuff here to do. And, we got to make sure there's money for a variety of disasters, hurricanes and tornadoes. But this wasn't a hurricane, and this wasn't a tornado. And by the way, that's your job anyway. We can't fund these programs, you can. Setting aside that no American in this country should face financial ruin because of a health issue. Certainly 9/11 first responders shouldn't have to decide whether to live or to have a place to live. And the idea that you can only give them 5 more years of the VCF because you're not quite sure what's going to happen 5 years from now, well, I can tell you, I'm pretty sure what's going to happen 5 years from now. More of these men and women are going to get sick, and they are going to die. And I am awfully tired of hearing that it's a 9/11 New York issue. Al-Qaeda didn't shout death to Tribeca. They attacked America, and these men and women, and their response to it is what brought our country back. It's what gave a reeling nation a solid foundation to stand back upon, to remind us of why this country is great, of why this country is worth fighting for, and you are ignoring them. And you can end it tomorrow. Why this bill isn't unanimous consent and a standalone issue is beyond my comprehension. And I have yet to hear a reasonable explanation for why. It'll get stuck in some transportation bill or some appropriations bill and get sent over to the Senate, where a certain someone from the Senate will use it as a political football to get themselves maybe another new import tax on petroleum, because that's what happened to us in 2015. And we won't allow it to happen again. Thank God for people like John Field. Thank God for people like Ray Pfeiffer. Thank God for all of these people who will not let it happen. They responded in 5 seconds. They did their jobs with courage, grace, tenacity, humility. 18 years later, do yours. Thank you.
Jon Stewart stood at that witness table, representing the ailing, the sick, and the dying heroes of the September 11 Victim Compensation Fund. These are the men and women who ran into the burning, collapsing towers when everyone else was running out. They spent weeks breathing in toxic dust, pulverized concrete, and jet fuel. Today, their bodies are riddled with rare cancers, pulmonary diseases, and agonizing illnesses. Many of these heroes had to literally drag themselves out of hospital beds, put on their old uniforms, and travel all the way to Washington, D.C., just to beg their own government for the health care they were promised. And what did they find when they arrived? Empty seats, deserted desks, a near total absence of the very lawmakers who are paid to serve them. The politicians who are quick to declare their undying respect for first responders couldn't even bother to show up to the room. Jon Stewart looked straight at those empty chairs, his voice visibly shaking with a mixture of grief and pure fury, and delivered a line that instantly tore through the hypocrisy. He said, "Behind me, a filled room of 9 over 11 first responders, and in front of me, a nearly empty Congress. You should be ashamed of yourselves." Think about the profound disrespect of that visual. People are dying. They are running out of their most valuable commodity, which is time. They don't have months to wait for subcommittees to schedule meetings. They don't have years to wait for bureaucratic red tape to clear. They are dying right now. Stewart didn't pull any punches. He called out the callous indifference of lawmakers who treat these American heroes like an annoying line item on a budget sheet. He looked at the stage and shouted that there isn't a single empty chair up there that hasn't used the phrase "never forget" for political leverage. And then he completely destroyed the most common, lazy excuse used by Washington insiders. For years, politicians from other states have tried to dismiss the fund, calling it a New York issue that shouldn't be funded by federal taxpayers. Stewart leaned aggressively into the microphone and delivered the ultimate rebuke. "I'm awfully tired of hearing this is a New York issue. Al-Qaeda didn't shout death to Tribeca. They attacked America." The entire hearing room, packed to the brim with firefighters, police officers, recovery workers, and grieving families, instantly erupted into a tearful, thunderous standing ovation. The raw truth had finally been spoken aloud in the one room that needed to hear it most. On September 11th, it took these first responders exactly 5 seconds to answer the call of duty. They didn't ask about budgets. They didn't ask who was paying the bill. They didn't check to see which state people were from. They just ran in. Now, decades later, they are still waiting for Congress to do their jobs. Jon Stewart didn't just give a testimony. He held a mirror up to the political establishment, and the reflection was deeply shameful.